JJ Bates, here we are again, episode 2 of the Rugby Breakdown Podcast. We build it up big time, didn't we? The opening weekend of the Inter-Services Rugby Championship.
It didn't disappoint though, did it? It
No.
didn't disappoint.
Even with our build-up, how brilliant was that? Fantastic couple of games.
I'm still getting my breath back. It was an amazing weekend, just a perfect way to open the tournament. Even the weather held its own as well down in Plymouth. It was a complete opposite of last year.
Yeah.
Complete opposite of last year.
It was just fantastic to see, as you say, the sunshine there, the players able to express themselves a bit more freely. Last year, we mentioned before in the first episode about how it was a bit of a mud bath, and of course that just nullifies any sort of running rugby and any chance for fans there and players to actually enjoy themselves.
Yeah, 100%. There was, you could see the crowd was there in good voice. It was, yeah, and conducive for great rugby. And yeah, I asked for jouet. I got jouet.
You got jouet.
In abundance. In abundance.
Yeah, it's what you wanted. And if we start off with the women's match, we mentioned obviously both games were brilliant to watch and plenty of good exciting sport to savour at the weekend, but the women with the RAF women really doing it in style against their naval opposition, 34-12 there, grabbing a very good win. So
yeah, it was a strange game, because I think if you look back at the game in terms of territory and possession, it'd actually be quite a close game, and the Navy may even edge it, but it was just pure clinical stuff from the RAF. It was just anything they touched seemed to turn to a try, and the Navy did the worst possible thing they could have done, and that was go down early, go down after 4 minutes, and then before they know it, they're two tries down, and it's just so hard to claw back against a team like the RAF. They're as I say, they're clinical.
Can't give them that start.
No,
you just can't afford to do that.
No, you can't. And I think that was when they'll look back and they'll kick themselves for that. Just and you saw the difference between the two sides, I felt, quite early on, and it was to do with defence, actually, rather than attack. It was, if you look back, there was a tackle, I think, a few minutes in, and it was on the Navy's Lucy Honeybell, and she absolutely got split in half.
It was a tone setter. That's how you kind of describe that.
Absolutely, yeah. She just
feel it.
Yeah. You could feel her midriff. A rib tackler, shaker. That one of those.
Shaker more than a tickler for certain. Yeah, definitely not a tickler. That one. They say about rib ticklers, that was a lot more than a rib tickler. That was a really thunderous tackle.
And that was it. I think it was the intensity of the RAF defence, because there were so many times the Navy were in that 22 and they just didn't convert. They just couldn't convert into points, and that was the story of the game, because the scoreline really doesn't reflect how close I think it was. And I think there's certain things the Navy women, I think, can take out of that game.
Absolutely.
They
have to look at those things. Yeah.
I think in terms of effort, I think there was a lot put into that, and it's just at clinical moments, those knock-ons. But there was certain moments of the game where you thought, they can get back into this, and especially before half-time. They score just before half-time, and you're just thinking, go in with that score and bring it into the second half, and there's only a couple of tries in it at that point, so you never know what can happen. And then they immediately concede with a few seconds to go till half time, and that was there was just no looking back after that point.
No, they didn't turn back. And I think, as you say, with that early try, the standard and the calibre of these players, and we talk all the time, don't we, about how special it is to watch some of these players in motion. I mean, it really is top-class standard. And I think that was typified by the fact that Wales's Caris Williams-Morris scored after 4 minutes. To have a player of that level, an international player, playing for you, I mean, even though, as we always say, these players are all fantastic, but I tell you what, to have a player of Williams-Morris's calibre there, it's brilliant.
Yeah, I think we spoke before the game about a couple of key players being missing for the RAF, losing Amy Kane and losing Bonner. It's kind of like other players of that elite level needed to step up, and Williams-Morris was certainly one of those. The Welsh Wizard was at her pure best. Blistering speed.
2 tries as well.
And they were archetypal winger tries. They just she was hanging on that outside and then just blinkers on and straight down, and there's just no catching her, just showing a clean pair of heels. And she was just she's phenomenal when she's at full pace. I mean, how do you catch her? How do you get a hand on her? You just can't. And as I say, it was one of those games where the other elite players needed to step up, and I thought Lucy Nye, she was incredible. She is she's just pure leadership. She didn't put a foot wrong. She controlled the game, the pace of the game, and then she's to look at her. She's obviously small in size, but I tell you what, she put in some
big in stature.
Oh my god, just pure Faf de Klerk style tackles, and
like the hair as well.
Yeah, exactly that. But she just throws herself into tackles. It doesn't matter whether you're a front row forward. She will come at your ankles and she's going to take you down. And I just thought she showed at times that level of composure to get the other women through that game, and
leading by example.
That was it. She led by example throughout that whole game, and I thought she was a class above.
Absolutely. And another player to mention, Orla Proctor, the player of the match, with a couple of tries. The Air Force's 5th and 6th tries on the day. So very special for quite a few of those women, as we mentioned, and great for the fans down in Brickfield Stadium in Plymouth, which put on a show on Saturday. Great for them to see that. So, women's game. What about the men's? Tell us about the men's match, because I tell you what, the Royal Navy winning by, to quote the legendary cricket commentator Ian Smith, the barest of margins. 1 point, 25-24. I mean, wow. Over the RAF. That's an amazing match to have been to see.
What is it with this fixture?
I don't get it.
2 years in a row. So obviously you had the draw of last year, obviously in a completely different kind of scenario in terms of conditions and the type of game that it was. I was completely wrong when I said that the RAF needed those type of conditions to keep it tight. 100% wrong. I think the RAF played some of the nice jouet rugby as well as the Navy.
Absolutely.
They came out strong in the first 15 minutes with Crawley and Prescott looking insanely good. Anytime they got the ball, there's that moment you just feel like something can happen. And
there's an energy. There's a sort of a spark, and you think this is going to lead to something, one way or another. And
so that first 15 minutes, I thought the RAF were on top of that game, but they didn't score.
No.
And the most important statistics of all is always, the scoring, and because they didn't score in those first 15 minutes, I'd say the Navy got that try probably against the runner play. Dobson with a lovely show and go,
You got to check that out in the highlights. Absolutely. And then soon after, Jessie Lowe. I mean, that to go bang bang.
Yeah, it was just that double blow, and then if we talk about playing catch up, but I mean the RAF men certainly did their best in terms of chasing that game.
Yeah.
But a lot of their great moments at the start of the game came through that back line, that pace. But what actually got them back into the game was pure forward grunt. And
James Roberts, one to mention, hooker for the RAF. That impressive to, as you say, pull back and just halt some of that Navy momentum. Yeah,
essentially, there are waves in a game, and essentially the Navy got that 1-2, and it even looked like they were going to score again, and what the RAF managed to do is show a little bit of composure, settle back down, and then sort of slightly change their approach. And as I say, they used a little bit more of forward grunt, a little bit more, I suppose, old school rugby,
ball under the jumper kind of stuff. Route one, as they call it. Straight up the middle.
And that got them back into things. So it showed a bit of that forward power, and then should we talk about it?
I think we should actually. Yeah.
Shall we talk about it?
We'll talk about it. I mean, and I think we are talking about the same thing here. The Navy's brilliant Sam Matavesi, Fiji international, looking like he was going to score in the closing minutes of the game. And then what happened? The ball bubbled out from the breakdown, if you like, and the RAF picked it up. Will Lamont ran the length of the field. He was probably in that phase when he first picked the ball up, thinking, is the ref going to, is he going to ping something here, or am I free to go? He was free to go, ran the length of the pitch and scored.
Yeah, I mean, you could see him looking round, like, he's next to me.
I know, yeah. Am I good? Yeah.
And some of the Navy players, I think, will look at themselves and not play into the whistle. They would just seem to
play the ref. They teach from a young age, JJ.
Yeah,
come on,
I know.
Play the ref.
They will completely kick themselves for that moment. They were just kind of looking, and Lamont was looking, but he's jogging. Then realises he's not going to get blind, so then he gets to halfway and starts to put the foot down and goes for the full acceleration, goes the length of the pitch.
Yeah,
but blimey, I mean, there was some incredible tries in that game.
There were.
The Matavesi try.
I know.
The Matavesi try.
How can we not talk about that?
That's a front row forward.
It is.
He makes a break, gets in behind, but he's got one player to go. What does the front row forward do? They put the head down and run and try and run over the player. Yeah. No, not Sam Matavesi.
No, he's not interested in that. Come on, he wants something a bit more creative than that,
The guy literally puts the ball down on his foot, kicks over the last defender, then gets the perfect bounce, grabs it and puts the ball down.
Glorious. It's what you dream of as a kid. You're kicking the ball in the garden or the park, whatever it might be, and that's what you want. You sort of think, right, I'm going to score here. Final of the World Cup, kick the ball over the top, bounce back, inter-service, huge match there. And that final try, as we say, Will Lamont for the RAF, and then they got a penalty, 25-24. Navy held on, which was the key.
I think it's a big decision, that penalty now, when you look back at it. So I think it was around the 74th minute they get that penalty, and I suppose normal thinking is get those points, and then you're going to get the possession back, and then you can go back and get back at them again. But I think it was. Now you look back, and with it being a 1 point game,
absolutely,
should it have been a
shoulda, woulda, coulda though?
Should it have been a kick to the corner?
And those are the ones, aren't they? Those are the decisions, JJ, that can not split, but can sort of cause coaches and players just to have a disagreement at the time. One might think one thing and think, no, kick to the corner. We need to get the points here. We need to really put pressure on the Royal Navy. And others might think, hold on a minute, get the points that are in front of us, and then try and go again. Yeah, and as you say, get the ball kicked back to us.
It goes back to every level of the game, and the Chris Robshaw for England, looking back on that Wales game where he could have kicked for the post, got the draw in that game, and England go through into the next phase of the World Cup.
Yes.
But they didn't. They go for the corner, and they don't get the try, and they don't go through, and they get knocked out in the group phase in their own World Cup. It's those fine margins in rugby and those decision-making moments,
millimeters,
as captain. It's what makes it a beautiful game. You don't get you don't get a selection of what you're going to do in football. You get a free kick, you've got a free kick. This is the difference between rugby and lots of other sports.
Decisions on the spot, under pressure, with the crowd watching, your fans bleating for you, baying for you to run up the middle and score potentially, or to put it in the corner and give yourself a chance of that forward momentum and get over the line. But they chose the penalty, to kick the penalty, and it just wasn't enough. It just wasn't enough in the end, because the Navy, as I say, hung on. And what a way for them to start their defence of their title. I mean, defending champions, how much pressure is that going to put on the Army, do you think, now? Because the Army will know that whoever was going to win was going to play ahead of them. Obviously, the second and third round were their two games. So is that going to make a big difference to the Army's preparations or their thought process, knowing that the Navy is now coming into the Twickenham game having won, or not?
I think they've just got one focus on their mind, and it is just beat Navy no matter what.
Yes.
I don't think it changes their approach at all. Obviously, they'll pick up a few things from that game in terms of tactics, but I don't think it will change anything too much in terms of their mindset going into the game at all. No. What I do think is, I actually think that game, having a close game like that, helps the Navy. I think it shows what they can do under pressure. They showed moments of brilliant defence, especially
very good
in that first half and in that first 15 minutes that I was talking about. They managed to nullify Proctor and Crowley once they got through. They were making those breaks, but they didn't then carry on and get that flow in terms of getting all the way over the line. So I feel like the Navy are match sharp. They're match ready. I think the RAF had to bring
their A game.
Bring their A game, and that's why it was so close. And I think there were plenty of things the Navy will now go back and work on, because there was moments where they should have showed a little bit more composure and it wouldn't have been as close. There was, an interesting knock-on where they were over the line, which would have took them, I think, a couple of tries ahead on the scoreboard. Which then, there was just moments in that game where they could have just took that game out of sight, and they didn't.
It's how the momentum swings, right?
Yeah, and who cares? It made for a brilliant game of rugby.
As the spectator, it was wonderful. It was wonderful.
It made for a fantastic game of rugby.
Yeah.
You just couldn't ask for a better opening fixture.
No, you couldn't. If everybody wanted something to promote it, something to really bang on about and say, this is special stuff, this is why you need to watch it. That opening weekend, I mean, how much better does it get? Yeah,
it doesn't. And if you want to see that Lamont end-to-end try, we've got it on the Forces News socials at the moment.
Forces.net's website as well. Check it out there.
And obviously the full games are on the Forces News YouTube channel. And I fully recommend checking them out. And some of the tries were absolutely incredible. And William Morris's brace of tries I thought was fantastic. If you're a young winger out there and you actually want to check out where you should be in terms of positioning and how you should run with the ball, there's no better person to look at than Williams Morris.
Wizard.
Literally the Welsh wizard. She was fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. Yeah, a great weekend of rugby. The Army, in the meantime, have been warming up as much as they can. They've got training camp at the moment. They had a 12-try rout against the Irish Defence Force, which some might say, well, that's not ideal preparation necessarily, but of course it has allowed especially their backs, I think, to get plenty of miles in the legs and to show what they're capable of. Lieutenant Colonel Tim Osman, their head coach, saying after the game, we know what our backs can do. We know what we can do in open play, and also we know 1 or 2 pointers now that we need to work on in training camp. So there's nothing that replicates match day. As you say, with the Navy having beaten the RAF, they know that they've got the win under their belts in the inter-service this year. Nothing quite matches that. However, the Army probably feeling pretty good at this stage about their preparations. Yeah,
I think they feel great about their preparations, and it's good to get some miles under the backs. The Twickenham pitch is a larger pitch than most rugby pitches you'll play on, so therefore there's going to be plenty of space for those players to exploit, and I think that is perfect way of actually preparing a team. Obviously they would like a little bit more intensity. The Navy will be finely tuned, but the Army have their eyes on the Navy, are full on target. They are out for revenge. They really want to avenge this. Going back and talking about the launch day at Twickenham, and
that was a great day, wasn't it?
It was a great day, and one of counterparts at BFBS was asking who do you want to beat the most, and every Army player was Navy.
Absolutely, that motivation's clear to see, and it's an interesting toss-up between the motivation of defending their title, which the Navy. You look at recent years, the Army have won quite a lot of titles. The Navy have done it in recent years, but it had been 7 years before they won the title back last year, and the RAF, it's been a while since they've done it as well. So for them to go back to back, there's a huge motivation there, but it's that against the motivation of the Army to make amends for last year and to really get, as you say, that revenge. That's pretty strong stuff too.
It is. Whenever you have a defeat in any sporting scenario against a rival, it's not. This is the thing. It's not just losing. It's losing in a game of such intensity. Losing in a showpiece event that's held at the home of rugby in front of 50,000 spectators. it doesn't get. It's just in terms of military sport, it doesn't get bigger than this. So and to lose in that scenario just means that they are out for the win, and they will try to win by any means. I think it's going to be a tough. Well, then again, I say that I fully expect some fantastic flowing rugby, as well as I just think some hard hits. And I was re-watching last year's game, just doing a little bit of research.
Done that many times myself. It's just and the try that Ramakita's try that we captioned at the time and asked, is this the greatest inter-service try that we've seen? A wonderful game that was, wasn't it?
It was an incredible game, and going back through it, you actually saw some of re-watching some of the hits, the intensity of last year's game. Oh,
rib smashers.
literally rib smashers.
Yeah.
It was crazy. Some of the hits that went in, but I think it might even ramp up a little bit further this year.
I think so. I think so, with that history, well, with what happened last year. And I spoke to Cam McDonald, the hat-trick hero last year. Not quite in the end, sadly, for his side and from his perspective. He wasn't a hero in the end because, of course, the Army lost. But he'll not be playing this year. But I spoke to him last week and just picked his brain, really, about some players to look out for. And he said Frank Kelly in midfield at 12, a brilliant ball carrier. And Fax Bolidau, as we've seen before, at number 8. Huge, man mountain, absolute gentleman. And I remember him at the Military Rugby World Cup, the IDRC last year, being very hard to take down, low centre of gravity, just a huge man, brilliant, very skillful in the back row. So 2 players to watch out for the Army there.
Yeah, you can tell that this is they are preparing meticulously for this year's competition. They don't want to go 2 years without lifting that Babcock Trophy. There's something about the Army mindset that I wouldn't say would feel embarrassed, but that's something about that Army mindset that just won't accept it.
Yeah, not embarrassment, as you say, because they really respect their Navy opponents.
Yeah.
And you've heard it from players, coaches. Once again, Cam McDonald spoke to you last week. He said, very, very good team. They've done a lot of good stuff in the last year or two, and they're aware of their challenge. So it's not embarrassment, but it would be, for them, it would be their pride is at stake. They don't want to.
It's 100% that.
Yeah.
This is the ultimate pride game. There are lots of trophies up for grabs through the inter-services, and the Babcock Trophy has an amazing history to it, and they obviously want to lift that, but it's having that win over an old rival. And how we promote this tournament is rivalries renewed, and every year you feel that intensity and you feel it ramp up a tiny bit more and more and more.
It's the history, isn't it? And it adds to, you've so many players moving through. You've players who are sort of, if you like, veteran players who've played for a few years and have experienced that before. But what is clear to see from my perspective, and I'm sure you'll agree, is whenever you meet and chat to some of those younger players, the inexperienced ones, just how aware they are of the history. They know exactly what's gone on in this tournament since it was started. They know of their obligations, really, and their responsibilities to do their absolute most for not just their teammates and not just their service personnel, but also those who've come before them.
Yeah, it's 100%. This sport, the services, and this tournament is all built on one thing, and that is respect.
Absolutely.
And it's respect for your teammates, respect for your opponents. It is what makes this tournament special. It's what makes the sport special, and it's what makes the services special.
Hear, hear. It's well put. Now, you're looking resplendent in your lovely top here, a rugby top, and I see a ball as well. We're sitting between us, for those listening, there's a ball between our 2 microphones. Do you honestly think you're auditioning for a game or something? Are you going to be trying to get on that Twickenham pitch in the 4th of May? There have to be a few injuries before that. I respect you as a player, but I tell you what, is this your... Yeah.
There's no way I'm stepping into that front row in Twickenham.
We're all looking around for you in the day, going, where is he? Can
you imagine me in that scrum, looking at my opposite number, say if I'm playing for the Army, looking at Sam Matterface against me, like no. I thought represent my amateur team, the Flarians.
And then
and then obviously we've got an England rugby ball between us, as we will be heading to the home of England rugby on Star Wars Day.
Star Wars Day. May the 4th be with you, my friend.
Yeah, may the 4th be with you too. And let's face it, the forces will be strong that day.
So you're meaning to say if they don't let you in the pitch, you'll turn up in a Darth Vader costume and try and have your way that way?
I think we're going to see a lot of Star Wars costumes when we get to Twickenham. As we know, fancy dress is a huge thing for Army Navy Day, but I'm fully expecting Darth Vader's, maybe a Yoda or two, stormtroopers, you name it, Boba Fett.
There's so many options. I mean, it's endless, really.
Yeah,
and of course, on top of all those, you've got the usual options. We saw quite a few. We've mentioned it already. We saw quite a few last year.
Yeah,
cheerleaders. We saw all sorts of different characters enjoying themselves. Yeah, Dalmatians. Yeah. I mean, they don't even have to be human costumes. So it's. How would you sum it up, JJ? I mean, for people who haven't yet had the chance to go and see, and hopefully as many people as possible that have the chance, how do you sum it up in a few words, that atmosphere? Because you can just feel it, even as you get to Twickenham. And people always talk about match days at international stadiums, but that feeling, what was it like? So
you'll get into Twickenham, and you'll see outside, like in the street, and you sort of see that build up of people walking towards the stadium, and you can feel like a little bit of a fever. And then as you get closer and closer, you get more and more people. Most of the time, you'll be walking towards the south stand if you're walking from the station direction, and then you get towards that lovely statue outside the stadium, and you can see the amount of people congregate there, and they're taking their pictures, and you can see the people in their Army and Navy shirts. You'll see people in their club shirts, because as we've spoken before, that it's so well supported by the rugby community. So there'll be Harlequins fans there, there'll be Sarries fans there, and you'll see the people in the fancy dress, and you just hear the songs. And last year it was one of the Navy bands just outside the stadium. And they did the drumming outside the stadium. Everybody was just enjoying it, taking pictures.
It's almost like a carnival atmosphere in a way when the music gets going, and you see, as you say, people who've met up with their mates, and sometimes you might meet up with your mate you've not seen for a while, and that's really cool. You get to bond over the rugby and the experience.
Yeah, it is that one of those times a year that you will reunite, and it's such a rugby fixture, because it's kind of like this is such a great rugby period. So the Army Navy's coming, the Premiership finals coming, the European finals coming, the Barbars games coming.
Yes, it's a landmark day nonetheless.
Yeah, it's just one of those points of like, this is the coming together of summer rugby, and this the end of a rugby season, but it's just those landmark games that people look out for, that's circled in the calendar.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's just that hallowed turf, as they describe it. I mean, how much excitement are those players going to have just before this match? And it doesn't matter whether or not, as we say, one side might on the day have just that extra little bit of edge, because for all those players involved, it's a day they'll never forget. They'll look back on and they'll say, that was special. That was, not only am I playing rugby for my service, not only am I playing rugby at the top at a great level, and for some of those guys, they'll go on, and women, they'll go on and play higher levels as well, but I tell you what, they'll never forget the iconic experience of being there. Yeah,
I mean, that was one of the great things. Obviously, I got to talk to England and Lions legend Jason Robinson,
Billy Whiz.
Yeah, Billy Whiz, and I spoke to him, and you'll see parts of that interview going out on our socials, but I spoke to him about Twickenham. The funny thing is, he doesn't remember his first try there. It's just, one of the questions I asked.
It's just so many. I mean,
exactly. when you've scored that many tries, you can't even remember your first try at Twickenham. No. But the thing is, he was talking about those special memories and what a special place it is. And when you look around those stands and you see, you just see those tiers and how big it is. Huge. The venue. It's a massive, massive venue. And it's such a place that's iconic with history. With all those Barbars games, let alone all the England games, and then there's Premiership finals. It's just full of rugby history. So there's sort of a feeling when you go into there. You know, they call Old Trafford the theatre of dreams, but there's something iconic about,
something mystical and magical about it as well. Yeah.
And that is 100% it. You put your finger on it right there. There's something magical, something in the air when you walk through that stadium, especially for those players, because they'll be going through those rose gates. Those, you know, there's certain iconic things.
Yeah, it's almost like ticking off. They'll not be doing this obviously in advance of the match, but it's almost like ticking off in your mind. Wow, I've been through the rose gates. Wow, I've been here. I've been, you know, hearing the music as I enter the stadium. I've been stepping out onto that turf for the first time. I've been having a look at the goalposts for the first, you know, the rugby post for the first time. So it's all those little moments that just add up to.
And the
brilliance.
pride that their families and friends will have, and when they'll look out and see them in the crowd, you know, those are the things, you know, those great moments of when you're being watched by your loved ones in such a huge game, you know, and you know, no matter win or lose, they are so proud just to see you there. You know?
Getting there in itself is a real achievement. It's a recognition of your brilliance as a rugby player for both the women and the men who'll be taking part. So it's really in a way a tribute to them even before they step out, that they're getting selected, they're getting recognised to go out into that, if you like, rugby's you know, as you say, theatre of dreams like Old Trafford. It's a dream for them stepping out there.
Yeah, and an iconic competition that has so much history,
and the rivalries,
and
that
the
makes
rivalries,
it big as well.
Yeah. So there's something special for them, and it will be such a proud moment for them, their family and friends. It's what makes this competition that little bit extra, and that puts a little spark into the air. So I'm already salivating at the thought of what's going to go on.
Keep your shirt clean, though, for goodness sake. Yeah.
It is going to be the festival of rugby and that festival atmosphere, and if you can be there, if you can be there, because it's something not to be missed.
Yeah, you know, not at all. And of course, watch it live with us. Forces News YouTube channel will be live. Both the games at Twickenham, starting at 1:30 UK time on the Forces News YouTube channel, as you've already mentioned with our socials. They're all across the build-up. They're all across the action on the day, some behind-the-scenes content, right? And on our website, forces.net, for previewing and looking back at the game too.
There's going to be plenty of social content go up out during the build up of the game, so make sure you're looking across the BFB Sport socials and the Forces News socials. Yeah, we've got a lot of stuff because we're so excited, to be fair. We're very excited. And I'm just hoping as well, in terms of that women's game, I really think there was stuff that Navy team can take out that first game, especially, as I say, they had some good possession, some good territory, and they just can't make the same mistake going down so early in the game, and I think that's going to be a key factor for their game. I know how much they want to sort of make them not amends for last year, but they certainly want to put on a better performance than they did.
They spoke of closing the gap, didn't they, this year's inter-service? I think the day you were there at the launch, they actually they spoke in those terms. They said, we're wanting to...
That's exactly what they wanted to do. They want to move in terms of steps. I mean, we've spoken about this Army team. There's an aura around this Army women's team. It almost feels like, in terms of women's rugby, on a scale of All Blackish, you know, it's just they're to be feared, and
standard bearers, really, in a way.
Exactly, and that's what they are. They're holding the torch for the standard, and we've spoken before that we reckon that they could hold their own in a women's premiership, and I really believe that. But that Navy team, I can tell how much they want to make moves forwards, and I really hope they do on Saturday, because I think it's really important for the competition as a whole. And there's some really good players in that team, but I just think they, as a collective, they had a little bit of trouble in terms of their warm-ups because of the weather.
Yes.
I think there was some postponements, which can always make it harder going into competition. So hopefully with that RAF game that they'll get a little bit more cohesion going.
They've learned a few things too about themselves.
Yeah, and I'm really hoping for a really good game of rugby.
Absolutely. Shall we dare do some predictions? This is a dangerous thing to ask, JJ. I know how it always goes with us. We get sort of more nervous about predictions than we do for the players on the pitch.
Yeah, I may not be fence sitting this time.
Why don't we start with the women, shall we?
Yeah.
It segues nicely from what you've been saying.
Yeah, and as I say, that Army team, they just looking just invincible. They really do. In terms of again in their warm up, they won in a convincing manner.
Mm-hmm.
They just look well drilled. So it's hard not to look past an Army victory. But I do not think the scoreline will be anything like last year. I really do.
67-8, I believe, last year.
Yeah, I do think the Navy women can close that gap. But it is, for me, an Army victory.
I think an Army victory. I believe, once again, it will not be the same scoreline, just to be a copycat and to annoy you, JJ. But no, I think it'll be a lot closer. I think the Army by 20, 21 points, something like that. If you were to ask the logic behind me saying that, I don't know. I'm going on instinct here. But I think, Army by 20, 21 points.
Yeah. In terms of the men's game, like this one's a very, very hard to predict game.
So exciting.
It is very exciting because I know how much that those Army men will be hurting from last year and how much they're going to be wanting it this year. But I still think the Navy will come through. I think that RAF game was such a really good game for them in terms of having a close game, and I think there'll be certain things that they'll, despite the victory, that they'll be annoyed about, and things that they'll want to put right, and
that extra bit of motivation, if ever you needed it, is right there.
Yeah, it's there for them. So I'm gonna put the Navy for the repeat. So
I'm going to differ slightly.
I thought you might.
I might. Yeah, why not? Why not? It's always fun with you, JJ. I think the Army by with less than a converted score. I think maybe by about 4 or 5 points. The Army. I think it's going to be close, as you say. I just think they'll. I just think with that extra motivation, I think they'll use to their advantage. The Navy. I mean, I'm not going to be surprised if they win. Obviously, as we know, it could be one or the other. But yeah, the Army, I'm going to go for.
Yeah, but the thing to look out for is the standard of rugby that's going to be on that pitch that day. If you please, everyone, rewatch the RAF Navy game, because you will see incredible tries and some incredible skills. And when you put that onto the Twickenham pitch, it's going to be a joy to watch. It literally is. And I tell you what, it's Sam Matavesi in that last game. I still can't get over him.
Mate, you are buzzing. Still buzzing.
He's something special to watch.
He's so versatile,
a human being.
isn't he? Yeah.
And you're watching a front row forward, and the guy looks like he sprints as fast as a back. You know, he is worth the price of admission. He is worth a couple of hours out of your day to watch on any live stream just to see him play rugby. And you can tell why he plays international rugby. He plays for, he plays
Fiji,
for and he's playing for the current leaders in the Premiership.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. I mean, he is, as you say, they're almost worth the admission money alone. And the great thing about the match is, of course, there are so many players like that on the field. And when they come together from having played for their various clubs, it's brilliant to watch. So absolutely, I agree with you. Let's rewatch RAF Navy, which, of course, you can see on forces.net, our website. You can see a lot of behind the scenes and build up content on socials as well. Am I right?
Yeah, 100%. There's going to be lots of build up to see. I think there's going to be some interesting stuff that I can't quite tell you that So it's
you see. Doesn't involve you playing, does it?
No, it absolutely does not involve
You disappoint
playing.
me. You've come up with a shirt and you're not even hilariously disappointed as well.
Playing. Unless you're willing to join me.
Oh, well, that would be dusting off the boots from about, as you can tell, about 12 years ago. But yes, it's going to be brilliant. And of course, on the day itself, Forces News YouTube channel, watch it live. 1:30 UK time is the men's match. The women's match follows afterwards. You can also catch up with the latest from the radio bulletins and BFBS Sports socials, Forces News socials.
We'll also be at the captain's run through on the 3rd.
Yeah,
so there'll be
the
plenty
eve.
of on the eve of the game.
Twickenham eve, yeah.
So and we'll be plenty of extra social stuff on the day in terms of the build-up, in terms of all the fans, all the fancy dress costumes, and it's going to be one heck of a Star Wars day. So definitely on May the 4th, be with us.
I think that's time to go out and play. Shall we do it?
Let's do it.